So, breaking news, everybody. Conor McGregor has now been signed to fight Dan Hooker in Saudi Arabia, February 2025. Well, unfortunately, what does this mean for Michael Chandler? Obviously, absolutely nothing. He's already scheduled to fight Oliveira, which is going to be in the November card. Same card as John Jones and Stipe Miocic. So, this is unfortunate in many ways. Obviously, we wanted to see Michael Chandler fight Conor McGregor because that was the original plan up ahead, but unfortunately that plan had to be halted. Now, will he fight Conor McGregor in the future? Right now, at this point, no one really cares because, quite frankly, Michael Chandler is nothing more than just a B-side fighter, right? At least in comparison to Conor McGregor. Maybe he's an A-side fighter to other people, but Dan Hooker has already been beaten by Michael Chandler. So it made me think, maybe Conor is doing this because it's an easier matchup, or maybe because they did not want Michael Chandler to wait any longer, or perhaps maybe they just felt like Michael Chandler was a very bad matchup to the point where they're like, you know what? Let's just scratch this whole thing. Okay, so what are we going to do then? Well, let's give him an easier matchup. What's easier than that? Well, who did Michael Chandler beat? Dan Hooker? Okay, then let's put Dan Hooker in there. But not so fast. You got to understand something. I think Conor McGregor has some serious problems with taller fighters. You've seen that with the Nate Diaz fight. I'm sorry. Got the brothers mixed up, but you know what I mean. Even if it was Nick Diaz, I think Nick would have given him the same amount of problems, especially Nick just a little bit out of his prime, or maybe in his prime, or just a few years after his prime, but not the Nick Diaz right now, obviously. Well, that goes to show and ask the question properly is, where is Dan Hooker in that, right? Well, honestly, I think this is a very even matchup, to be quite honest with you. And at the same time, I feel very bad for Michael Chandler. This is the worst part about it, is really feeling bad for the fact that Michael Chandler was waiting for Conor McGregor. He was being a company man. He wanted to really put himself out there as a good soldier. But a good soldier he was, so they gave him Oliveira, and now Conor McGregor has Dan Hooker in Saudi Arabia. So what was all that conversation Conor said to the Sheikh, saying, hey, Sheikh, I need some help and some assistance here. I can't get a fight going. Now we know. Now we know why. We saw something in Dan Hooker, and I'm talking about the Sheikh and the UFC and everybody else in between. They saw something in Dan Hooker where they're like, you know what, maybe this is a much easier matchup for Conor McGregor. Okay, so they go and sign it. They figured, you know what, it's a great attraction for Saudi Arabia. Dan Hooker is a big name, at least big enough to where the hardcore fans can at least appreciate it. But for the casual fans, it really doesn't matter. Conor McGregor is one of those guys that can literally fight a broomstick and it'll be absolutely okay, and it will still sell numbers nonetheless. And Michael Chandler was proof of that. So here we are, Saudi Arabia, Conor McGregor. Is it an easier fight for him to come back to? Probably, considering the fact that Michael Chandler has slept Dan Hooker. But Dan Hooker, where is he in his career right now? Is he in his prime? Is he out of his prime? Is he a bad stylistic matchup for Conor McGregor? Or is he a better matchup for Conor McGregor in terms of the UFC really preserving their brand and everything else that goes with Conor McGregor as a big name entity? But either way, I'm excited for this one just as much as I would have been excited for Michael Chandler. Obviously, I'm bummed for Michael Chandler, but you can't help but be excited for this one. It's Saudi Arabia, it's Dan Hooker, and it's Conor McGregor's return. What more can you ask? Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next content, and inshallah, we will have more information on this matter as the time goes on and as the days go by, as we get more information on this particular fight. But for right now, this fight is official. It is signed. And when Dana White and Conor McGregor said, hey, listen, 2025, as early as that, we're going to do it, I saw exactly what they mean, and I saw the writing on the wall. Did I see Dan Hooker in the mix? Somewhere down the line, I sort of saw that. Dan Hooker also has a good relationship with Mac Life, which is a channel ran by Conor McGregor and his own journalists. And by the way, Dan Hooker is friends with a lot of his friends that are journalists in that particular channel, which is Mac Life. He's done a few segments in there where he's done, like, I don't know, some segments or some skits during fight week or some video content for that channel. But nonetheless, there is a relationship there with Mac Life, his staff, and now Conor McGregor as a partner going into this fight in February, Saudi Arabia. Because guess what? They need a big pay-per-view fight. All the champions are booked. Well, guess who's available? Conor McGregor. So this was the writing on the wall all along. Don't forget to like and subscribe. More content to come in the future, inshallah.